Hello, and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I don't think I like neo-Nazis.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Green Room, which came out in 2015 from director Jeremy Saulnier. Iain, will you give us the synopsis for Green Room?
Well, the story follows a punk rock band called The Ain't Rights. They've acquired a gig at a local club run by some neo-Nazis. One of the band members, Anton, sees a murder and the band is held up inside their green room.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are the Ain't Rights or the Aren't Rights. Either one.
I've been made aware of this director.
Yeah.
He's made two films previous to Green Room, starting with Murder Party in 2007 and Blue Ruin in 2013.
Yeah.
And both of them they're independent films that have won awards and sort of generated quite a buzz and a following behind this director. So when he went to make Green Room, again, it got a fairly wide release for what feels like essentially an independent film that managed to get some good actors in the mix. And when the film came out, a lot of people said that it was over-stylized and violent and didn't really mean anything and just kind of left people going, maybe I probably shouldn't have watched it.
Over the top for pushing the envelope.
Yeah, but there wasn't enough from the promotional material or word of mouth that made me go, I really need to watch that. It was kind of one of those films that I just thought, I'll get to it at some point.
Yeah.
And now that I have, I'm just like, I wish I'd seen it when it came out and helped push this film towards its correct audience.
See, I heard about this film just after Anton Yelchin passed.
Yeah.
You know, big fan of Star Trek here and saw him as Chekhov. Enjoyed his performance, but hadn't seen any other films with him in as the main star.
Well, he was really good in Terminator Salvation. As a matter of fact, he was probably my favourite part of that film.
He played a good Kyle Reese. But, you know, the tragic accident that happened to him kind of pushed him into the limelight. You know, remember him from this film and this film. And then Green Room came up and I thought, oh, let's have a look at that. And heard the same thing. It was over the top. It was violent. Didn't mean anything. You know, you might as well go watch Hostel or a Serbian film. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's quite extreme. So with what I do, I wikied the film. And reading through the story, felt the same kind of feelings from the description of these violent sequences. And I'm sat there like, I want to watch it, but there's a part of me that kind of doesn't want to tread there. Then when we were asked to do it for the reviews, I thought, okay, going to face this film head on. Just going to sit down and enjoy it blank slate. And artistically, this film is beautiful. The director really has an eye for just setting a scene. You know, that opening shot with the van in that cornfield, you're like, okay, I've heard it's a horror thriller. So is this the beginning? Is this the end? Where are we? And we see 4 people in this van. Anton Yelchin wakes up and says to his friend, you know, oh, we've crashed here. You've left the engine running and the battery's dead.
So, you know, it's very horror tropey straight away.
Yeah.
But at least they're not in immediate peril right now.
I did get a big hint of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, though.
Yes.
You know, the 4 teens lost out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm just like, okay, I kind of know where this is going, but it doesn't feel like it's going there.
No, because right now they're not trapped. And this kind of seems to be the norm. Heading to their next tour destination, drinking along the way, passing out in the middle of the night and crashing the van and everyone passing out, essentially. But they're just like, they shake it off. They're groggy and they're like, yeah, okay, where are we? Here we're going.
Yeah.
Let's go here and siphon some gas, jumpstart the van, and we're off. It's like, okay, I guess this happens to them quite a lot. But it lets you know who these characters are. It lets you know how their relationships with each other work. And it feels very documentary-esque right from the get-go.
I'm always broke and I'm alone. I ask myself, what have I become? What have I become?
I love the fact they meet a fan or he's a radio host, a local punk kid.
But he also seems to be like an organizer for local venues.
Yeah.
For bands to perform in.
And he does an interview with them, and they talk about how they like to stay off the radar. They don't go on social media. They're all about playing the music because there's an experience there while they're live in front of people, and then it's gone, so you have to reenact it. And I'm sat down and I'm just like, I'm feeling this band. You know, the Ain't Rights, they're a punk band, but when you see them in that diner, they'll take any time to play, and they will just play the shit out of it.
I think it's interesting as well that all the actors in the film can all play instruments, and I think it was the singer
Really?
and the drummer who actually couldn't play, but then learnt how to play for the film. So even though the tracks were recorded separately, the actors are actually performing the right movements so that it feels more authentic and believable.
Yeah, we've got obviously Anton Yelchin playing Pat. He's one of the guitarists. We've got Joe Cole, who plays Reese. Is he the singer or the drummer? Because
I always throughout the film I got confused between the drummer and the singer.
yeah,
Sorry.
Because you've got Tiger played by Callum Turner. I'm pretty sure he's the singer, and then we've got Ali Shawkat playing Sam, and they get this band together, and they seem to be at the end of their tether. You know, after this one interview, they're just like, oh, fuck it, we're just going home. But we need this for gas, and we need food, and we need to get back out on the road. And the reporter says to them, well, I've signed you up to this gig. It's at my cousin's place. It's down there. And the band say to him, are they like you? And he's like, well, they're more left wing.
Boots and braces, I think he calls them.
Yeah, and I'm just like, we're going into some dark territory now.
EMS, Sharp.
Right wing, or technically ultra left, but not affiliated.
Are your cousins cool?
Yeah. Don't talk politics, but stick with Daniel.
And they soon arrive there. And straight away you get the sense of, that approaching sense of dread.
Yes.
Just starts to fill the screen as you're watching it. And you just know that they're walking into a death trap.
Yeah.
It just feels it, even though the characters are not aware of it yet. And they get into the ready room, they get up onto the stage, and they see their audience. And so Pat's just like, you know what, let's fuck with them.
Yeah.
Let's antagonize them. And they play the Dead Kennedys song, Nazi Punks Fuck Off.
Fucking no religious code, found me thinking for yourself. You ain't hardcore cause you spike your hair, but a jack still lives inside your head. Nazi punks, Nazi punks, Nazi punks, fuck off. Nazi punks, Nazi punks, Nazi punks, fuck off.
And yeah, it doesn't go down too well.
Well, you say that. I got the impression that, they're playing to a hostile crowd. So they're going to come off hostile to this crowd. And the neo-Nazi crowd kind of reflects that. They're not rushing up on stage. They could have rushed up on stage at any point and beaten the crap out of them.
Well, they're spitting and throwing bottles at them.
Yes. But it's kind of like a face-off between the two of them, because after the Ain't Rights have played their set, they're being paid. They're actually, it seems like they've actually done well. So I got the impression that they've gone into this hostile situation. They antagonized their crowd.
Won them over in a way.
Yes, won them over, played a great set, and now they're going to go off and they're feeling good about themselves. But they notice that all of their equipment is being thrown out into the corridor. Which
It's a fire hazard.
Yeah, it's a fire hazard. And they're about to just go get into the van, and then one of the band members says, oh, I've left my phone. It's on charge in the green room. So Pat says, well, I'll just go get it. And as he walks in, the dread hits you again, doesn't it? He walks in, and there's a girl that you have previously seen lying dead on the floor with a knife in her head. And 3 of her bandmates standing around her.
I love Pat's reaction, where he just picks up the phone. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna And he's just frozen. He's just
Yeah.
like, this is not good. It's like, I really felt like all of the characters' reactions were quite genuine.
Yes.
And the way that they behave is quite real. But then the owners of the club realise that he's intruded onto this crime scene, essentially, which feels like they are in the process of covering up. And so then they force all of the Ain't-Rights into the green room with the other band and kind of close and lock the door.
Yeah.
And leave the security or the bouncer with an armed gun covering that room.
It was just so unsettling. You know, they've just been forced into this room. The door's been locked. There's still people out by the stage. You know, they're still serving drinks, and like you said, it appears like they're covering up this murder. And I'm thinking, where's the ultra violence? You know, I've heard a lot of ultra violence for this film, but I'm not seeing it. But I'm not actually upset because I'm very unsettled by what they're going through. And you have one of the skinheads, Gabe, running around trying to deal with this situation, and he felt very genuine too. He felt like he was in the middle of a bad situation that he's taken care of millions of times, but he hates being in this situation.
I need 600 cash.
You just signed out 350.
Somebody's dead.
He ultimately ends up having to deal with the police when the police have been called by Pat. And that sequence between the twins, you know, Pat has called the police regarding a stabbing. So Gabe ends up going outside and paying 2 local skinheads to stab each other so that they can actually sell that to the police and send the police off on their way. While that's happening, the guys are locked in the room. You know, they want out, and maybe that girl on the floor is not dead.
There's not a lot of blood, you know, so like maybe she's just and who are we to say that she
Come on, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, when he pulls that knife out.
Well, it's when
he drags it.
The scene where he's dragging the woman's corpse via the knife that's stuck in her head. The director said that he watched a prison documentary in which there was a murder in the prison, and one of the prisoners said about dragging the body away with the knife still buried in its head. And so that imagery of that happening, kind of, he put that into the script. And when you see it happen, it is disturbing. And then, you know, the other band member is just like, but I thought there'd be more blood. And he's like, really? Yeah. And he actually pulls the knife out, and of course the blood just pools everywhere. You don't see all of it, but enough for you to believe that it's a real corpse and she's dead.
That's it. I didn't feel like I needed to see any more gore than that. That was kind of the cherry on top of the cream of the unsettling scene that I was watching unfold. That I was just like, yeah, I'm good. You know, I don't need to see any more. But then going back to the room and just how tense everything is. You've got Amber as well, played by Imogen Poots. She is another genuine character. She's so upset that her friend has just been killed, but at the same time, she is frightened, surrounded by these band members. You know, they could kill her as easily as they just killed her friend.
I love the conversation that the doorman has, where he explains that they're not bullets in the gun, they're cartridges. And the cartridges, once they fired, will leave the bullets in whoever has been shot.
Yeah.
And he explains about how many cartridges this certain gun can have.
They're called cartridges. The bullet is a part that enters your brain if you keep talking shit. And this gun only has 5 cartridges, not 6. 'Cause they're big as fuck and only 5 fit the cylinder. So please, shut the fuck up.
It's like, yeah, it's unsettling. It's just building up this character as well.
Yeah.
And of course they have to bring him down at some point. And so one of the band members eventually puts him in a wrestling maneuver to get the gun from him.
Yeah.
And he threatens him. He's just like, you know, I'll break your arm if you don't drop the gun or if you don't just back down. This is where Patrick Stewart would arrive on the scene. who plays Darcy, who is the owner of the club. Now, Patrick Stewart, he's known, for me, mainly as Jean-Luc Picard. He's the captain of the Enterprise for several years in several films.
Yeah.
It's Professor Xavier. This man has been in geek culture for how long now? 30 years?
Yeah, and to see him in this was massively unsettling.
To be a villain.
Yeah.
Essentially, I mean, we don't know he's a villain straight away, but with everything that's going on, you just know.
You didn't feel he was a villain as soon as he walked out and he's got that quiet voice and he's just assessing the scene. And he seems very friendly with whoever's in charge. He's very friendly with Gabe. He knows pretty much all of the skinheads. And I'm like, this guy he's the Grand Wizard.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, of this group. He's the Grand Wizard. And the conversations between him and the guys inside, just trying to convince them to obviously let Big Justin go and throw the gun. He convinces the other band to leave. The band that have actually committed the murder. He gets them out. And you're just sat there looking at the Ain't Rights and you're just thinking, this is going to go downhill so badly. You are all in for it.
Gonna be cops, so clean up the residence. Maybe leave a roach in an ashtray. Put Daniel on that door and bring the van around. Shit. Keys.
They're with them, I guess. I don't know.
Good evening.
I got a ton of shit to do.
Go on.
It's building up very gently. Patrick Stewart, he sounds so sinister.
Oh, yeah.
Through the door.
I love the fact that Patrick Stewart, when he got the script, he thought it was so good and so brilliant that he wanted to be a part of it. And he knew he wanted to play Darcy.
Yeah.
But he said at the same time, he went and locked all of his doors and windows and put the security systems on before he went to bed that night. He said the script terrified him. And so that's the other reason why he wanted to play this part. It does seem a little bit reserved. I mean, I've seen a lot more acting range from Patrick Stewart in lots of other things, whereas in this film he is just one note, one tone, and he doesn't really have major acting to do. But what he does do is just ground this character, kind of brings it out from the shadows a little bit more, knowing that it's Patrick Stewart that's doing it, that makes you go, ooh, isn't he creepy as a bad guy?
Yeah.
Whereas if, almost any other actor in that role, and may have lost something not having, the celebrity or this iconic face behind it.
Well, that's it. I realised halfway through the film that we were contained in the green room.
Yeah, I do love films that are all in one set or one location.
Well, that's it. It was all contained in the green room for about 35, 40 minutes. But then it expands to the inside of the club once they get out past that. Then expands even more to the world outside. And so with the band inside the green room, Darcy and his whole army are outside. He can't get in. He wants to get in, but he just doesn't want to kick it off. And it just escalates from there. And you just see this gradual downfall of this immense kingpin, I suppose, from Patrick Stewart. The band as well, they realise underneath their room is a heroin den. All of Darcy's money comes from that room. I wanted to say it felt placed, but then the gradual build up of the guy seeing the light, thinking it's a way out, smashing through the floor, finding this den, but realizing that it was locked, I suppose, from the outside. I really wanted some guns in there.
Well, yeah, but it seems like Darcy doesn't really want that many guns involved because of the noise. He doesn't want more police investigating. And he really wants to cover this up as quickly and efficiently as possible. Especially after this sequence happens where he tries to convince the band to give them the gun.
Yes.
To which case the band finally submits and decides they're going to open the door and make peace and try and resolve this situation.
For all I know, I come to my place of business, and there is an out-of-town band locked in a room with an unregistered firearm.
Oh, come on!
There. And I maybe there's a hostage, too. So what do I do? Am I within my rights to intervene? Should I kick down the door and start shooting?
Pat gets grabbed instantly. One of the other band members realizes that the ones waiting outside, looking through the air vent, are wearing red laces.
Red laces.
Now, in this sort of gang culture, the red laces are pretty much symbolic of the fact that these members have spilt blood for the cause.
Yes.
So these are dedicated killers, essentially. And the moment that door opens and they grab hold of Pat's gun hand, you hear him start screaming and wrestling with whatever's on the other side of the door, and we're not privy to what's going on until Pat pulls his arm back after one of the other band members starts prodding with a metal pole, and there is your first major gore shot, and it is horrific. His arm is literally hanging off at like 3 different points, cut right through to the bone.
It was so amazingly done. I mean, like I said, I'd been built up that this film was over the top violent, and then the first major violent sequence I see, I don't actually see it. I just see Anton Yelchin's reaction, his performance, and them trying to batter back this door to finally revealing his arm, and I'm sat there going, "Oh, Jesus Christ," you know.
So they managed to get the door closed again, and just in a panic, you know, they're trying to deal with Pat's wound. They have no idea what they're doing. You know, they don't really have much medical training, so they just kind of throw some stuff and bandage on it. One of the other people in the room's just like, put some pressure on it, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. And this is where they would end up taking out the bouncer as well.
Yes.
The bouncer has been choked unconscious, but Amber has decided, let's just make sure he doesn't wake up, and slices his belly all the way up to his neck.
Oh, Jesus.
That was grim.
Yeah. After the arm sequence, I'm just like, okay, you've just hit me with 2 major gory sequences on top of this slowly suspenseful, bubbling indie art house movie. I'm good. This film just kind of elevated itself up to 11 before we're even halfway through it.
Yeah. And so what resolves then is panic, anxiety, fear, the unknown. All of these characters just start pulling in different directions, trying to figure out how best to deal with this situation. And you know, a lot of great films have characters in them that you can relate to.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and when you're watching bad horror films, you're like, why is that person doing that? Why is that person doing that? In this film, I believed all of the characters. You got to know them even a little bit more as the crisis was unfolding.
Yeah.
As they tried to figure a way out, you know, breaking through the ceiling, breaking through the floor, trying to find air ducts or ways out or weapons or anything that they can use to help themselves get out.
And then when they finally do get past the door, there's nothing there. And you're just like, okay, that's even more unsettling, because while we've been watching the band get prepared to escape, we've been watching Darcy having to deal with all these deaths and now this extra destruction inside his club, clearing the club out and then paying people to get in position because we're going to finish this band off. I'm sat there and I'm just like, I can't wait to see the band bring them down, but I know not a lot of them are going to get out. Because they come out into the main stage area of the club, and you see one of Darcy's left-hand men, I suppose. He comes walking up with this really nice, cute-looking, vicious pit bull terrier, and it just leaps at them and starts ripping out the throat of one of the band members.
Well, yeah, I like the sequence where the band were just getting ready then to leave.
Yeah.
And you know, they pass, one of the girls, I think, passes Pat a weapon, and he's just like, no, I'm mostly just running.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you're just like, yeah, you know, with your injury, you can't fight, and you're coming across as, you know, a wimpyish character.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when they all decide to dart in different directions to make their escape, we watch one of the other band members leap through the window.
Reese, yeah.
Reese, only to get shanked multiple times by one of the skinheads outside.
See, it was such a brilliant sequence because it wasn't over the top or crazy. There was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 skinhead gang members going in after them. But when the dog's running around and he starts to attack Amber on the stage, I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to see this dog get its head caved in, but she does need to get rid of it because it's trying to rip her leg off. When Pat runs up with that microphone and just lays it on the speaker, I'm just like, look at that MacGyver motherfucker right there. That's some serious planning that is. And that would later come back up in the film to divert these dogs. So I'm enjoying the fact that the directors thought about it. Watching Reese die was harsh as well, because when Gabe ends up dragging the body back up to Darcy, and Darcy just kind of looks at it and just goes, yeah, just let him bleed out.
Yeah, I like that. You know, the fact that his planning is just like, if he dies now, they'll be able to evaluate the time of death. So keep him alive kind of as long as possible so that, yeah, if he dies when we've got him to wherever we need to take him, the coroner will be like, yeah, we couldn't have died.
Yeah,
at this level.
It was cold planning from Patrick Stewart.
Very much so.
So we're left with Pat and Amber stuck inside the green room after the other band members have been killed off. And I was really surprised by that because I didn't expect Amber to survive. After the initial meeting of her in the green room with her friend dead, I thought she was going to be dead like in the next 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Hold on a minute. This girl's still alive. And she's kind of proving herself to the band by killing the bouncer, you know, killing a couple of the skinheads outside. This girl wants revenge for her friend. And her connection with Pat, I felt, was very surprising because I'm expecting Anton Yelchin to be the hero, yet his character is a complete wimp and spends most of this movie hiding. There's a couple of times where he does jump out and kill some people, but his relationship with Amber, I saw Amber as a very strong female character.
Yeah. The director actually was asked, you know, why is the colour appeared in the last title and now this title of your films?
Yeah.
And he kind of joked that it's his inept protagonist trilogy, in which the main character is a fool, you know, the main character is incapable of really being able to deal with the situation that they're in.
Wow.
Like a Blue Ruin has an assassin
who
is terrible at assassinating. And then as a side result gets embroiled in the events that occur.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, Anton Yelchin's Pat is again completely inept and unable to deal with these skinheads, you know, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
But somehow manages to stumble his way through the film and managed to survive to this point.
Hey, down there, dipshit fashion punk clown motherfuckers!
Turn around! Shazbot! What? Who is that?
Odin himself.
I thought as well what was really beautiful about this film was at this point you have Daniel, who is another main character skinhead, who was in love with the girl who was killed at the beginning. Their relationship is going on in the background involving the skinheads as well. And it turns out that Daniel was planning on dropping evidence, I suppose, to the police to bring Darcy down. And it just kind of coincided that Emily would reveal that she was leaving her band and her band friend would kill her. And the Ain't Rights would get kind of caught up in this whole takedown of Darcy. So when Darcy decides to send Daniel in to find out what's going on with the last few band members, he finds out that Emily's just been killed. So now he's kind of saying to Pat and Amber, I'm going to help you out. We're going to get out of here. We're going to walk out the front door and we're going to, you know, do this thing. He gets blown away 5 seconds later.
He's pulling out all the shotgun cartridges from underneath the counter, and he's just like, there's a shotgun here somewhere. And the other skinhead's just like, you're too slow. Yeah, I was just shocked. You know, that was a shock kill, because we've seen gruesome deaths in the film, but just watching half of his face just disappear halfway through, you know, his sentence was just like, oh, You know, I thought he might actually help them.
I know something we don't.
Good. What?
I know where we keep.
Too slow.
It was really quite shocking, and it just ends up with Amber and Pat have now planned their escape against the skinheads. And Darcy is just like, right, we've got all of our evidence. We've got the van. We've got these dead band members' bodies. We're going to go off. We're going to set up the crime scenes. You go into the club, finish off what's left in there, and we'll see you in a couple hours. But Anton Yelchin's change from normal Pat to Odin doesn't really do much for his bravery, but it does look cool. You know, his whole speech to the skinheads and the way he drops down to distract them. So then Amber, that crawl out of the sofa was absolutely brilliant. Just her out of focus and then just walking up, and I think she shoots. Does she shoot the guy in the head? Or
No, she has a throat slit.
She reached up to the guy and slits his throat, and I was just like, that was awesome.
That was good. And then, so of course, the other skinheads now, he knows he's down there on his own, and he continues to hunt for Pat, who's kind of hiding around the corner. But he kind of, you know, he's not willing on jumping right out there because that guy's still got at least 2 shots left, as she keeps calling out every time he fires a shot to let Pat know how much ammo he's got left. She uses the fire extinguisher to distract him. She throws the other skinhead over the side to distract him, just long enough for Pat to get the upper hand, to which he kind of fumbles, and he just ends up wrestling with the other skinhead, you know, who then requires the girl to come down and finish him off for him.
She gets a lot of kills in this film.
She does, yeah. And so the two of them have now cleaned house. So they come back up topside, and they realise that there's still one more skinhead, one gang member still in the building.
Gabe.
And Gabe's just like, look, I want to go to prison. I don't want to die. I'll just go to prison.
I think his genuine shock that they are still alive and everything that has happened throughout this night could have just, you know, it could have easily been dealt with, but they kind of ended up fucking with the wrong people. And then he just says to him, yeah, I'll go off to the next town or whatever, and I'll call the police. And Pat's just like, we're going that way. We're going to go finish this off. And they head over to Darcy's home. There's only Darcy, his right-hand man, and just a normal soldier left. But it's this final showdown is over so quickly, but still very enjoyable. You know, they capture Darcy while he's trying to build up this crime scene that he kind of defended his plot of land from these band members who'd come to steal his petrol. And they shoot his right-hand man really quickly. He's on the floor. They kill the soldier. He's dead. And we watch Patrick Stewart turn and run. I feel he attempts to run, but then when you see him draw his gun, I'm thinking he's just wanting a bit of distance so that he can kill these guys. But watching Professor X get shot in the back.
I love the line that Pat has after Darcy's sort of walking away with his gun out, and he just says that, you know, during the day you're not as scary.
Yeah.
I was just like, Meh. And then, yeah, just shoots him in the back of the head. I was just like, wow, you know, the blood's splatting everywhere. It's like, wow, that was pretty realistic.
Yes.
And yeah, so they killed all the skinheads, and then they just kind of collapse.
Just sat there waiting for the police to turn up.
And then the dog from earlier that had been injected
So
to live for about an hour comes trudging back up, and they aim their guns at it.
They're even clicking.
Yeah.
They're even clicking. There's no ammo.
And the dog just stumbles past and lays down to die next to his dead master.
That's so beautiful.
And again, the film, I realised during the running course of the film that although it was shocking and disturbing and violent in places that it is, there is, the film has a backbone of dark comedy throughout it. And, I just couldn't help but laugh at that dog just trundling up the path. It was just like, why am I laughing at this point?
It's the same reason why you were kind of smiling to yourself when Big Justin was talking about the shells.
Yeah.
There's just these little hints.
It's just wry comedy in there.
Yeah. I found myself laughing at little points with Darcy talking. When Patrick Stewart was swearing, I kind of giggled thinking, ooh, should he be saying that?
It also made me laugh that the first word in the film is shit, and the last word spoken in the film is also shit.
Really?
This whole film was a pleasant surprise. Obviously, I'd heard mixed to good things about it, but I wasn't really anticipating it to be as good as it is.
Yes.
My favourite sequence in the film, it was kind of the turning point for the characters when they decided, now that 3/4 of their band are dead, that the only way to get out of this is to fight back, even though you are inept and incapable of doing so. You've chosen to do so, and the paintball conversation where he's just comparing this to a paintball session, which was also based on a real life experience from somebody that the writer knew, where a group of kids go paintballing and they're up against Royal Marines. And the Royal Marines have got their tactics, they got coordination and hand signals so that they can just outflank and maneuver you and never suffer a casualty. And so one of the characters in this paintball story just went, fuck it, I'm not going to use cover, I'm just going to walk straight over into enemy lines and Rambo the lot of them. And I was just like, wow, I actually did that in a paintball game. And I didn't get shot either. And I wiped out like half the team because I just walked right through the middle. It's just like, because when you're playing paintball, there's no fear of actual death. And so they decided that what they were going to have to do is pretend that if you got shot, you weren't really going to die. And that was their way of overcoming the situation, which I thought was really good. And then, of course, when he transcends into becoming Odin. And I love the way he just turns and just says, I am Odin himself. I was like, he kind of believes it, but
yeah.
So yeah, those were my favourite moments in the film.
Hi, down there, dipshit fashion punk clown motherfuckers.
Turn around, Shazbot. What? Who is that?
Odin himself.
I was very, very surprised by Green Room. Like I said, I thought it was going to be over-the-top violence, something I wasn't really going to enjoy. The film would have no merit, that it would have no soul, it would just be violence for the sake of violence. I was very surprised, and I waited for a favourite scene to pop up. And it never did, because I realised by the end of the film, the whole film had just been one massive favourite sequence. The camera work at the beginning with them driving, the shots of the cornfield, them talking. I loved that moment in the flat where Anton Yelchin says, I'm going to bed. And his band members go, no, we're drinking. And the music just cut.
I get the bills.
I'm going to bed.
We're gonna drink.
It just as the music kicked in, it immediately cut to the next morning, and he wakes up, and the owner of the flat says, "Oh, you must have fallen asleep first," because they've drawn all over his face, and I felt I could relate to that. The uneasiness of them going up to the club, the dread, the feeling, the fact that these people are just neo-Nazi, right-wing, left-wing, kind of Aryan breed, super mutants, but they're still normal people. So I wasn't just expecting them to just get stabbed as soon as they stepped out of the van. The blood and gore kicking in later on with the gutting of the bouncer, the girl with the knife being pulled out of her head, just the dog attack, the stabbings, Anton Yelchin's arm, that really hit home, yet had been built up so masterly, so brilliantly, it had been built up that I enjoyed the violence. The whole film is just beautiful.
Yeah. It's one of those films where the protagonists are in over their heads and they're trying to use skills that they don't have to survive the situation. You know, it has a slow start, but it has a documentary feel which is uncomfortable with the dread, that it is tangible.
Yeah.
And it is relentless as it continues to build up. The gore levels are good. The violent, sadistic, yet simplistic nature of the film
Yes.
is enough to warrant rewatching. I would actually rewatch this film easily.
Not too close to the previous time.
No, but I enjoyed the characters. You know,
Yes.
many times in horror movies, there's like maybe one character, which is usually the surviving person, that you would grow to like. And often or not, most of the victims in horror films, you just like predicted it. You know, I didn't really care. You were an asshole.
Yeah.
But you actually kind of care for a lot of these characters, even the ones that don't get that much screen time. You get a sense of who their personalities are as the situations unfold. It's an oppressive film. It's kind of has an air of melancholy to it as the film plays out. You know, where it feels hopeless, and you know the film ends. You know, even though the film ends on a line of humor,
Yeah.
the characters are not in a good place. You know, they're traumatized by the end of it all.
Yeah.
The simplistic, realistic approach to the film also adds that extra element to it, which just makes it stand out a little bit more. It is generic, but it's done in an interesting and refreshing way. That, of course, is why I would highly recommend it for its acting, for the acting performances, the music when it builds as it does. Even just the band themselves, they felt like a real authentic punk rock group.
Yeah.
The violence, the music, the editing, the pacing, it's only an hour and a half film. It really works. And as a result of this film, I will now definitely go and watch this director's previous work and what's to come in the future.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend this film as well. It surprised me, much like Red State surprised me. You know, I sat down to watch one thing, thinking of one thing, hearing it was one thing, and then realizing that it was something completely different to what I'd expected. I sat there at the end of the film and I just kind of smiled and turned it off, realized I hadn't written a favourite scene and thought, yeah, fuck it, and just threw the pad to the side. The band, they all worked. Every one of those actors really made me believe in them, felt bad for them when bad things happened to them. You know, the skinheads, I wanted to hate them, but then I felt like that there was this whole other world going on that I didn't know about, that this band had allowed me to kind of infiltrate with them being there. Patrick Stewart, oh my God, you know, he just, it's fucking Patrick Stewart. I'm not saying anything more. The director really has a brilliant eye, and just like Gary, I'm going to go out and check out Blue Ruin as soon as I get a chance.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
When the sky is gray and the moon is hay, I'll be down to get you. Roots of earth shade,
I know something we don't.
Good. What?
I know where we keep.
Too slow.